Hello all, welcome to the session 4 video of our Python programming playlist. In this video, we'll talk about the two major looping constraints, the while loop and the for loop. We'll discuss about the implementation in Python and their code respectively. So first of all, what is a looping statement? A looping statement is nothing but a statement that keeps on executing the number of times until the condition verified by the user is true. The moment the condition defined by the user turns out to be false, the execution is stopped, the execution comes out of the looping statement, and the program terminates. So with that keeping in mind, let's first understand about while loop. So here's the syntax of the while loop. The syntax of while loop consists basically of four major parts, namely the first one being the variable initialization. In the variable initialization, you initialize the variable that you are going to be using in the statements of the while loop with some values. For example, you may be using the variable I in the statements, so you can verify and initialize it with a value 0, 1 or so on. After initializing, you have the condition check statement. In this statement, the variable is checked with the condition specified by the programmer. If the value of I at that instance is true, then only the execution goes into the loop that is specified by this colon. If the statement is wrong, if the condition does not matches, then for that value of I, the program execution terminates, the control moves out of the looping statements, and it is terminated. So let's assume that the condition is true in this case. Then the programming and the execution goes to the statements of the while loop. These statements can be anything. These can be various statements about working on the values that are initialized, or printing a simple statement, and so on. After the statements within the loop are executed, the loop comes out, the execution comes out of the loop, and the value of the variable that was initially initialized is updated. This statement is known as the value updation statement. Here, the value can be updated by either incrementing it, decrementing it, multiplying it by a constant, and so on. Then, after the value is updated, the loop goes back to the condition check statement and checks for that value of the variable, that if the condition is true, then it moves back to the looping statements, the statements get executed, it comes out of the loop, the value is updated. This keeps on going on and on until the condition that is specified by the user is true. The moment the condition is false, the execution breaks up, it does not go into the looping constraint, it comes out, and with the recent value of the variable that was updated, the program terminates. So in order to understand it much better, here is one example with while loop. Here I have initialized the variable w1 to 1. Then I perform the condition check statement while. Here the keyword while is used. While w1 is less than equals to 5. That means the value of w1 at any instance must be less than equals to 5. If this condition is true, then the execution moves to the loop. The loop here is signified by the colon here. It does not require any braces to put, any parentheses to put, just straight away the colon specifies that the looping has started. So the execution moves to the looping statement. Here, the looping statement is a simple statement. You have to straight away print the value of w1 at that instance. Then after this loop is executed, it comes out to the condition update statement, the value update statement. Here the value of w1 is updated by incrementing it by 1. You can straight away increment it by 1, multiply it by 1, multiply it by any other constant number. It solely depends upon you. After the value is updated, the control moves back to the condition check statement. For in this case, assume first of all the value was 1. Second times we have to check, is the value 1 less than 5 or equals to 5? Yes, it is less than 5. So it moves to the looping statement. Here it prints the value of W1 at that instance, that is 1. After printing it, it comes out of the loop and now it is in the value update statement. Here the value of 1 gets updated to 2. This keeps on going until the value of the W1 is greater than 5. That means 6. The moment the value of W1 is 6, the entire program terminates and the recent value of W1 remains to be 6 and the program execution stops. Now in this case, I have added some conditional statements also in this while loop. You would be familiar with the conditional statements from my previous video of session 3 where I discussed about various conditional videos and ternary operator. So in this statement, you can see I have initialized the variable W2 to the value 1. Now, here's the condition check statement. While W2 is less than equals to 10. So after doing the condition check statement, we encounter the if statement, the conditional statement. Here it says if W2 modulus 2, that means the remainder of this particular operation, division operation, if it is equals to 0, that means the number is even and you have to print the number adjacent to it even. If this particular condition is not true, we move the execution to the else statement. The else statement straight away determines that the value of W2 on dividing by 2 doesn't leave the remainder as 0. So it is considered as odd. So it straight away prints the value and odd next to it. After this entire thing is checked, the conditional statements are checked, we come out of the loop, that is signified by this colon, and the value of 2 where W2 is updated. Now it becomes 2 for instance. Now it is checked, is 2 divisible by 2 gives 0? Yes, so it's even. It straight away comes out of the loop, the value is then updated again. Now the value is 3. Is the value modulo 2 is equals to 0? No, it's not equals to 0. So it goes to the else statement and it prints odd. A better understanding you will be able to understand it better when I execute this program. So just let's execute it. So here you can see the initial statement was, let me just split the screen here. Okay, see initially we had a loop that ran for approximately 5 values. That means initially it was initialized to 1, then it ran up to W1, that the value of W1 was 5. So we have straight away printed these values in new lines. So this is the output of the first while statement that we had executed. Now comes to the second one. As you would remember that the second example was encountering the numbers and checking if they were odd or even. So after matching the conditions, the numbers are printed adjacent with whether they are odd or even. So in this case, 1 is odd, 2 is even, 3 is odd, 4 is even, and so on. So I think the looping statements would be, for a while loop would be clear to you. So let's move on to for loops. A for loop. The for loop is very simple as compared to the while loop. It straight away just has a range. That means for any particular x, you do not have to initialize x here. For any particular x in the range 0 to 7, that means it takes value from 0 up to 7, not inclusive 7, and runs this particular loop until this range is met. So here we use a predefined range function. that specifies the range of our values. So in this case, when the execution starts, it takes the value 0 for x. That means for 0 in the range 0 to 7. It is in the range 0 to 7. We print x and it print it in a new line. So this execution keeps on going and going until we encounter the value 7. The moment we encounter the value 7 now here is not inclusive in this range. So it terminates and the value up to 6 are printed. Similarly, in this case, here I have used what we call a list in Python. A list is a kind of a data structure that is used to store any kind of value. It doesn't have to be the same data type of all the values. So as you can see, I have entered an integer, a floating type, a string, and even a boolean value. So it just, you can say keeps a record of all these values, and you can anytime change these values or update these values. So it is not immutable. Okay, so I'll tell you more about lists in the coming videos. For this case, just assume that these particular values have an index. The index of 1 is the starting index and the true is the last index. So for x in L1, that means for x in all the values entered in the list, it move from the starting index to the end index and print each of them separately. Okay, so let's just execute this and check what would be the output. So just give me a sec. Okay, now let's print this. So as you can see, for the first one, the value inclusive of 0 but not inclusive of 7. So the values 0 to 6 are printed using the first for statement. Whereas in the second case, we had taken a list which had these following values. So as I told you, the for statement moves from the starting index of the list and moves to the end index of list and just straight away prints these values. So I think the for and the while loops would be pretty much clear to you. So to enhance your understanding to this, I have devised a problem for you. So just I'm reading the problem and I'll tell what you have to do in here. So create a program to take a particular range of value. This range can be 1 to 100, 1 to 50, 1 to 10. It solely depends on you. Then using a while or for loop, it's totally depends upon you that you use a while loop or a for loop to print the prime and the composite values separately. So here's the catch. You have to input a range of values and you have to print the prime and the composite values separately. You can take the reference of the above odd and even function, odd and even program where I had listed out the even and the odd values in a particular range. You can use that one where you straight away assign the odd and even values next to the values, or you can create two particular storing databases, or you can say in the case list and then include these values in this list and print those lists separately. It just solely depends upon you. So depending upon your understanding, just create a program and let me know if you face any problem. If you face any problem, just enter your problem in the comment section. I'll try to get it to as soon as possible. So at the end, I would end the video by saying just keep on practicing these programs. They are gonna be really fun if you start understanding them. Python is a really fun language. So just keep learning, keep hustling. Goodbye.